Well, Kalen DeBoer played his first practical joke on us fans. We'll tell you what it was.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson with the AHSA Radio Network. That's me. And Jimmy Stein with Bama Online. That's him. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Thanks for making us your first, second, third, fourth listen every single day. We love you everydayers. And you newbies, always welcome into our lovely cult. Jimmy, so we've already had our first psych from Coach Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's known for those. I just found it funny. All we did was talk about it's going to be practicing full pads. I wrote it on the thing because I was trying to get ready. It wasn't full pads.
Yeah, just guessed wrong. I think, I assumed that practice today would be in full pads because a lot of people aren't aware of this or care, but there is a scrimmage Saturday, the first full speed go at scrimmage in the stadium is scheduled for Saturday the 10th. I assume they would get out in full pads on Tuesday because see, you're probably not gonna practice Friday in full pads. And see, we don't get that schedule. They don't tell us with the media, what days they're doing what. But I just know from previous experience, they're not going to practice in full pads on Friday, the day before a scrimmage. So I thought, well, then they'll practice in full pads Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, knowing that Friday would be a shells day or even a shorts day. But no, they're still in shells. But what people need to understand, though, about shells, it's basically full pad. Hey, they're hitting for real. They're wearing shoulder pads and helmets, just not the full uniform. They're still kind of in shorts, but in shoulder pads. So they're, especially in the trenches, they go at it pretty good once they have those shoulder pads on. But no, they weren't in full gear today, which was Tuesday. But apparently they will be tomorrow in anticipation of the scrimmage on Saturday. And that scrimmage is going to be for real, Luke. That's when they start settling things. And again, I know that all the focus is on the starting lineup, but they do things in these scrimmages like decide who's going to be on the travel squad, who's going to play with the ones in the games. That's really determined in these scrimmages. So it's big.
So you're not going to be there Saturday, though, right?
No,
that's pretty closed, right?
The media is definitely not allowed into the scrimmage on Saturday. And some news for people that are unaware. I don't think Saturday was scheduled to be the Red Elephant scrimmage, but this year they're not going to invite Red Elephant Club members to a scrimmage either. So the normal Red Elephant people will not attend, and of course, no media. Now, Kalen DeBoer is going to meet with the media following the scrimmage, so there will be information from the scrimmage. And our understanding is, I think the university is going to put out photos and video from the scrimmage, like they often do. So we'll have photos and video and Kalen DeBoer following the scrimmage. So we'll have an idea of what happened. He's also a little more open about what happens than Nick Saban was. So we'll get some information about the scrimmage, but no, media will not attend and the normal attendees will not be there. I do think some Alabama groups will be present, like Crimson Tide Foundation, CTF. They'll probably be there, but that's not a big group. Those are the heavy hitters. They're the people that pay for basically everything. So they get to go. But that's a smaller group, and they're likely to be there.
Yeah, and I don't mind. I'm not in the Red Elephant Club, but I don't mind they're not having the Red Elephant Club there this year. Right. I do believe it's important to have them going forward. This year, I'm sort of like, first of all, you've been incredibly open. It's not like he's, taking all his practices and putting them in a dome where nobody can see them.
Right.
I mean, everybody's been pretty open. But I do think it's important to, now more than ever, appease some people who are boosters. Now, not everybody in the Red Elephant Club is a power broker, but there are some people in the Red Elephant Club who donate enough where they deserve some, let's throw some bones here. And
I think the focus is on NIL and Yay Alabama, and that's understandable. The focus needs to be on raising money for NIL funds, and Red Elephant does do that, by the way. Red Elephant clubs do participate in that, but I'm guessing there's going to be some sort of a switch of focus to NIL. And let's be honest, we haven't talked enough on the show considering how big it is, but the House settlement and all the massive changes coming to college football. I mean, Florida International named their stadium after Pitbull today. Their stadium naming rights. And let me tell you, Ohio State is discussing Ohio State, venerable Ohio State, the Horseshoe. They may have a naming rights deal coming soon for their stadium. Never say never with Bryant Denny either. We talked about it in terms of like, why aren't they naming the stadium after Nick Saban? I was concerned day one. My first thought went to, hey, it may be named the Regions Bank Stadium soon. And I think people just don't understand or care to read all the details. But the House settlement is costing Alabama $30 million a year is now being added to the $30 million. And that's Alabama's got to make up for that by more money coming in somehow, but also cuts. And that's all. Let's see what happens. But man, I can't stress enough how big a deal. I mean, you're talking about a giant percentage of the budget going up.
Yeah. Again, it's more than ever you have to appease some of your power brokers. I feel like, so I think that's important. Well, what did you see out in practice today? Because I have seen some folks talk about, hey, Qua Russaw looking like a dude.
I love talking about him today because I did watch him and he stood out. I watched a drill, real interesting drill. Some of the video may be up on BOL. People can check that out because we do have video up at BOL, and I'm not sure we got this or not, but they did an interesting pass rush drill. Christian Robinson and the outside linebackers, where they were having to get around numerous obstacles, numerous tackling dummies. They get around, and it's kind of almost in like a figure eight. They're having to cut 2-3 times and then strike the last tackling dummy being the quarterback. And they start, of course, with the starters. Q-Rob goes first, and Ken O'Coot goes second because they're the starter. But Qua Russaw is going third now. So he's third, followed by Yanze Pierre, who's fourth, Jay-Sean Ross, who's fifth, and Noah Carter, sixth. So there's 6 outside linebackers. Qua Russaw went third. Let me tell you, Qua did that in my mind. I'm no coach, but he did that as well as the starters in terms of his quickness around those tackling dummies. Unbelievable quickness. He's a thicker, more physical kid. So when he arrived to the fake quarterback, he arrived in a bad humor and whacked it pretty good.
Even the fake quarterback was ducking.
Exactly. It's just this weeble wobble thing. The weeble wobble, as I call it, because I'm using the technical term, the weeble wobble. It's
we're the only two people who watch this who know what a weeble wobble is, right?
That's right. Well, we played Battleship and then we played with our weeble wobbles. But let me tell you, Qua Russaw is going to be a good player. I think with him, his biggest problem is not is he ready? In my mind, watching him, it's Q Robinson and Ken O'Coot are just in the way. I mean, they're older kids. They're definitely ready. They're going to play. I bet, I'm just guessing, I think Qua Russaw is going to play first team snaps this season. I really believe so. And then he'll take over the spot entirely, probably next year. Now, one thing's a little different about him, though. He's not the tallest guy. Q-Rob is like 6'5". And
don't give away our measurables.
Like
We're doing that in the second segment.
But Qua is not as tall. He's not, a lot of your outside guys are just tall and long. He's a little shorter for the position, but he can fly. And when he gets to the dude with the ball, he unloads. I mean, he's impressive. I'm don't think because we didn't see Qua Russaw last year as a redshirt that he shouldn't have been a 5-star, was overhyped. I don't believe that at all. Watching him through drills, he's going to be a player.
Well, we're going to talk about Qua Russaw and that height and some other people's heights and weights in this second segment. But it's time to talk FanDuel. Love me some FanDuel. You love FanDuel too. Yeah, I know you're already playing it probably, but I need to tell you about it just in case you're not, because we all love sports and we love them. We don't ever want them to stop. But you know what? The sports aren't sports and like we want them to right now. It's just not a lot going on. It's about to be that time though. And FanDuel lets me keep sports going whenever I want to. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up any bet I want to anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everybody every day, all summer long. So head on over to FanDuel and start making the most out of what's left of your summer. And it ain't a lot, but you can start making the most out of your winter and your fall and your spring and everything else with FanDuel. Check out FanDuel.com. Also want to thank you for making Locked On Bama your first listen of the day. For your second listen, enjoy Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin. He's the absolute best. Been on his podcast a lot. Great dude. He's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. So, Jimmy, heights and weights.
Yes.
You got somewhat of a
5'8", 160.
You're saying you're 160?
I'm 160, yeah.
Really?
Sadly. Yeah, sadly. Been up as high as one.
You were recruited by Shula, it sounds like.
Been up as high as 170 when it got a little ridiculous at one point, but I've exercised it down to 160. Got a goal of about 155.
Well, I'm going to tell you, so you have a mini rant to go on about heights and weights and a lack of importance for them. But you know what? Maybe I'm just so starved for information. When the heights and weights came out, I loved looking at them. I was like, okay, I'm glad to see so-and-so lost 30 pounds or so-and-so gained 50. And I was shocked at some of the dudes who have gained massive amounts of weight, which is mostly going to be muscle in a very short period of time. And we'll talk about them, but I'm going to let you do your rant on heights and weights.
Well, first of all, here's one important thing when people are talking about weight gains and weight ups. You know, Charlie Potter and I at BOL, Charlie went back and looked. The heights and weights haven't been updated since March, and not March of 2024. March of 2023 was the last update. So we're talking a year and a half since they've been updated. And secondly, a lot of the heights and weights used back in March of 2023 for the freshmen were just simply the heights and weights that were used during recruiting, which, by the way, are largely self-reported. When you see a height and weight in recruiting, most of the time, it's what the prospect says he is in terms of heights and weights. Luke didn't even believe me when I said 5'8", 160. He's like, aren't you really more like 5'6", 140? I'm just saying that it's all
higher, Jimmy, higher.
Self-reported. So I'm not saying that we should stop caring or stop paying attention. I'm just saying there's a certain amount of obsession we get at BOL on our message board with fans wanting to know exact heights and weights. And I think the problem is in this lack of communication with football. The football program isn't obsessed with providing that accurate information to fans. That's not a priority for them. So, and when it is provided, it's not like they have a coach that stands by the scales and says, okay, we need your accurate height and weight because we need to let the fans know exactly how tall and exactly how much you weigh because they're waiting on this information. They're just busy over there. And I'm just saying we take it a little bit too seriously. We also don't take into account this. At practice, when they wear full pads and it's 100 degrees and they practice for 2 hours, the bigger guys lose 10 pounds in a practice. I mean, that number of what their weight is yo-yos for almost all of them, except maybe the thinnest DBs and wide receivers. It just goes up and down based on what they're eating and when they're working out and how much they're practicing. So I just think we obsess on it a little too much, and we're probably never getting the exact number. And even if we do get an exact number, how long is it good for? Because with those guys, your weight is a snapshot. Y'all remember Bryce Young a couple of years ago drinking all that water? Like, Bryce better weigh over 200 pounds or he's not going to be the first pick. And then he shows up at the official weight session heavier than he's ever been. That's because he just drank gallons and gallons of water in the 2 or 3 days leading up to it. So was Bryce really 205, or was it just sort of fake weight to get through that period of time? So I'm just saying, let's not lose our minds over some of those numbers. They're just snapshots in time. They're not necessarily accurate. They're not under oath. And Alabama football doesn't go out of their way to provide this information to the fans. The coaches have accurate heights and weights on their desks because they need to know that. David Ballou and his strength staff, they track everything. But the last thing they do is take the information from sports science, from Ballou's office, and put it on the official website, because that's just not what they've ever done, ever. But I'm just saying, I guess that's the rant of someone that's answered a whole lot of questions about heights and weights over the past few weeks. And they came
So
up,
what
but some
you're
of it is
telling me-
interesting. Did you see how big Keon Keeley was? Hey, and I was like, the first thing I've talked about practice number one was I walked into practice. First player I saw was Keon Keeley.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe how big he was. And now we see in the heights and weights out for him, what, 270?
Well, 277. But here's my thing. So you're saying that 242, I mean, the way you're saying that could have been like from his senior year of high school.
Self-reported.
Yeah.
He may have been less. He may have been less. He may have been
plus
more.
35. I mean, he may only be plus 20. I mean, still impressive. Yeah. But so what you have done is deflate my balloon, because I'm sitting here looking at, somebody like Casey Poe, and I'm like, wow, 292 to 322, and that's going to be good weight. Noah Carter going from 220 to 242. Wow. And what you're telling me is, I mean, it's not quite that good.
Well, we don't know. We don't know when those former weights were taken, if they were taken at all at Alabama. There were probably self-reported weights from the recruiting process when they were, again, they fill out information for the SID when they do the media guide. The players fill out information. And so a lot of it's just self-reported or taken from On3, like, okay, well, how big is this guy? Well, On3 says he's 6'3", 292. Okay, we'll use that. I just think that we have too many fans that take that information as gospel, and it's never meant to be provided in that manner of gospel to the fans. And in part because it changes so much. I mean, these kids do, their size, obviously their heights don't change much, but their weights do change dramatically through fall camp and into the season. But man, I can just tell you from being at practice, and y'all have seen the video and photos by now, this team is in really good shape, better than last year because the offensive line, which clearly tried to gain weight. Oh, and as far as Proctor gaining weight, by the way, let's be honest, Kaden Proctor probably played last fall in the 400-pound range. He was probably 400. I know he's listed on the media guys 360. I think that was, again, a high school weight.
I think that was a birth weight. 360 and 8 ounces.
Anybody that's seen Kaden Proctor today and that saw him last fall will tell you he's clearly trimmed up. But per the media guide, he's gained weight. That's not true at all. I think he played last fall. To be honest, I had to bet money 390 probably last fall.
Surprised me. It says Olis Allen gained 9 pounds to 335. I thought Olis Allen am I saying it right? Or did we ever?
Alenin.
Okay, Olis Alenin. I thought he ate 335 pounds a day. They fed him in sacks.
He's a big old joke.
He's a monster.
The guy I can't get over, Luke, and again, I'm not a carnival, guess a weight guy, but Jaden.
I thought that's where you got that shirt. They couldn't guess your weight.
When you stand next to Jaden Roberts, you would swear he's a transformer or an Avenger, or maybe the biggest offensive lineman on the team. But per his listed weight, he's actually one of the lightest linemen, but he just looks monstrous. You stand him side by side with Olas, you'd swear Jaden Roberts was the heavier, bigger guy, but he's not per the heights and weights. So that's just sort of interesting. And everybody carries their weight a little different. And some guys carry a lot of weight. Well, like, for instance, Miles McVay is still pretty heavy, but I think he carries it. He carries it pretty well.
Well, Jaden also, it's a little bit shocking because muscle weighs more than fat, and like he looks so cut up that it says he's down to 310. And I'm thinking, did he put both feet on the scale? I mean, you know what I mean?
I would guess 340. I would guess 340.
Easily
40. But, Kaden Proctor's thinned up. I'll tell you, it looks like $1 million. I mean, Wilkin Formby, interesting too. Day 2, after you were asking what I saw at practice, day 2 of Proctor, first team left tackle, Wilkin Formby, first team right tackle, day 2 of that. So that's interesting. But I watched the outside linebackers quite a bit. I watched the corners again quite a bit. Zabian had a different cast on his left hand, but Kane Womack told us when practice was over. Kane Womack talked to the media. He said in just a couple of days, Zabian will be back completely to normal. So as we said here, it was an extremely minor thing, but his hand is sort of bandage or casted up. But he went through every drill. He's not even sitting out. As a matter of fact, the team is still apparently remarkably healthy. I mean, there's not any information we have, or it's apparent. This is a healthy football team, which is good news. 1 week now into camp. Tomorrow will be the 6th practice of fall camp, and they started last Wednesday. So it's been a full week now.
All right, Jimmy, the coaches poll is out excruciatingly early. Let's react to it. But there's eBay Motors. Oh, man, eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, you're not burning cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions, well, they apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. All right, Jimmy. So the coaches poll is out. And, Alabama, Georgia won. I mean, again, you've all probably seen the poll. Georgia won, fine. I mean, I get it.
Sure.
I really want to complain about Bama at 5. I want to. I'm not gonna, because, frankly, I mean, do you put Bama ahead of Oregon? Do you put Bama ahead of Ohio State? Do you put Bama ahead of Texas or Georgia? I have already said I believe Alabama's going to win the SEC. I believe it'll be Alabama, Texas in the SEC championship game. We've done our way too early predictions. Right now, I'm sticking with that. But I don't know that's end of the year stuff. I'm talking about going into the year, and I guess it's all about how you approach the poll itself. How is this the poll you think it'll look like when the season's over, or is this what you think they are right now? And I like to go with what they are right now. And yeah, I'd put Alabama at 5 too. I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I don't have any objections to Alabama being at 5. One thing's for sure, I think Alabama. Look, we had to expect as fans that Alabama would be dinged a little bit losing Nick Saban, because I think where Alabama is in the poll under Kalen DeBoer is a different spot than they would be in the poll had Saban stayed another year. My guess, and this I'm just guessing, had Nick Saban stayed, I think Alabama might be number 3. Might be Georgia, Ohio State, and then Alabama at 3. I think Kalen DeBoer, the Saban to DeBoer switch, dinged Bama a couple of spots. And in retrospect, you're like, hey, that's not bad at all. You've replaced the greatest head football coach of all time and only fell 2 spots where you'd probably be. So I don't think Alabama's mistreated here. I would have been upset if they were behind Ole Miss. I kind of have a soapbox thing about where Ole Miss is right now, just simply because I hate to be all Missouri show me, the show me state. I hate to be all show me, but when was the last time Ole Miss beat someone really good? When is Ole Miss's last win over Georgia? I'm talking about national championship level Georgia, national championship level Alabama. Maybe they did in 2015.
15 was.
Yeah, so that's 9 years ago now. 9 years.
Let me say this about that too. Again, I understand that turnovers are part of the game. We also have to acknowledge it was a little bit weird that Alabama had 5 turnovers. They had none. It was a little bit weird that they throw up a pass, bounces off one player's helmet into the waiting arms of another when the quarterback was clearly getting sacked. I mean,
it took all that. Yeah, and it took all that. It took all that. And so I want Ole Miss, just me. I'm not trying to pick on Lane. I think what he's done at Ole Miss is remarkable.
True.
But I want Ole Miss to win a big game before I start putting Ole Miss in front of big time teams. I mean,
I'm with you.
I got to see them, and I know who they got. I know personnel wise they're going to improve, and I do think Ole Miss has a good staff. I think they've got good players, and I think they're going to be good, and I think they're a legitimate playoff contender. But I can't put Ole Miss in front of Alabama or Oregon or Texas. I'm a little uncomfortable with them being in front of Michigan and Notre Dame, to be honest.
Well, there's one person who voted Michigan won because they believe in the mantra, you're number one till somebody beats you. I don't believe in that. I mean, the times, especially now with the transfer portal and everything, I mean, everything changes so quickly. And they lost their coach. I mean, so they lost a lot. But I'll tell you.
I sort of like it, though, to be honest. I mean, I sort of like hey, you're number one until somebody beats you, and they're number one. They're the number one team until somebody.
But it's not even close to the same team. It's not even in the.
But it's not the same team. That's why I wouldn't vote Michigan won. But I get that line of thinking, and I sort of like it. But it's not the same team. It's not.
And if you're going by that, where in the world is Washington in this poll?
Exactly.
They're not even in it because they've got like 3 people coming back from their 2 deep. That's why. And they lost their coach. But where'd he go at, by the way? But so going back to your Ole Miss thing for a second.
Because they're at 6. They're right behind Alabama for people that don't know. They're at 6.
Right. And the other thing that it should be bothersome a little bit is that Ole Miss, okay, now, and their schedule, we've talked about their schedule, is pretty easy. I mean, again, kudos. I mean, I'm not throwing stones at them or anything. I mean, fine, I get it. But it's pretty easy. And so when you start out that high, your path is much clearer with a schedule like that.
Easy, And
I'm not sure Ole Miss deserves that kind of credibility yet. Is the only
exactly. Did they put them at 6 because they're the 6th best team, or the 6th team most likely to do well because of the schedule? You know, I think that's a great point, and they have gotten a break here, starting out at 6 and playing a lighter schedule than most of the SEC contenders. But let me tell you, I mean, we got a buddy, in the media that has said in the past, and I've always remembered this: you are what you are. And if Ole Miss is a little overrated, I know they play a light schedule. They'll find a way. If they're really, if what they really are is 8-4 or a 9-3 team, if that's what they really are, they'll find a way to end up 8-4 or 9-3 because you are what you are. And hey, it's the SEC. Going on the road in the SEC, if you're playing anyone but Vanderbilt on the road, you better lace them up, Ole Miss and Alabama and Georgia and Texas. Going on the road in this league is brutal.
I do feel a little better about Alabama's schedule, and we're talking about this as if when this comes out, it's the gospel. It's what everybody is. But I guess it's made me look at things a little differently. Yes, Alabama plays Georgia at home, but we all knew they were going to set up Alabama, Georgia this year. That was going to – okay, so that's fine. We do avoid Texas. We do avoid Ole Miss. We don't play Florida State this year. We do play them next year, at least for now. And we do have Missouri, but we get them at home. We play LSU, Missouri's 11, by the way. LSU is 12, and we play them on the road, but nobody wins in Baton Rouge more than we do outside of LSU. So I'm okay with that. We play Tennessee on the road. They just lost a starter, by the way, in the defensive backfield. And we play Oklahoma on the road. That's 15-16. But that's about where Tennessee and Oklahoma, I hate to say Oklahoma is all the time, but Oklahoma's maybe on a downward trajectory. So I'm okay with that. What I'm saying is our schedule could have even been worse. Wisconsin is not in this thing, which I'm a little shocked.
I'm a little surprised. I thought they might be 23, 24, 25. Good team.
It doesn't mean the game in Madison isn't tough. It just means I'm looking at it now going, okay, I feel a little better about our schedule. Yeah, we welcome in the number one team in Georgia, but you know what? Who's had a better run against Georgia in their run than we have? We're still in our run, technically.
We could do a whole show on this, Luke, but I just think ultimately what it comes down to is, will Alabama fans be happy with 10-2 and making the playoff? Is that like, that's a good year. Kalen DeBoer did really well in his first year, went 10-2 and made the playoff. Or will Alabama fans be, it slipped. The program's not as good as it was. We're slipping. This isn't good. This isn't good enough. This isn't the standard.
Jimmy,
my guess is you're going to get a little of both.
Zach and I talked about this. I'm going to wrap up the show now, but Zach and I talked about this in our now infamous crossover Saturday. I said, here's the one thing everybody talks about: Alabama and in-state recruits and Auburn's dominating. And they said, well, I love it because they'll play in the Iron Bowl. They're playing harder. And I said, that's wonderful. Here's the thing, though. That game has diminished in importance, because if Alabama goes 10-2 against this schedule and they lose at Tennessee and at home to Auburn, they're getting in the playoffs. You can write that down. They'll ever win over Wisconsin, Oklahoma, LSU, Georgia. They're getting in the playoffs. So if Alabama can lose to their two biggest rivals and get in the playoffs, you can't convince me that the rivalry hadn't been diminished a little bit. And same thing with Auburn. If Auburn this year goes 10-2 with losses to Bama and Georgia, they're getting in the playoffs. In fact, I would say from here until forever, till college football is no longer, which it may be sooner rather than later.
10-2 SEC teams.
10-2 is getting you in.
10-2 in the SEC gets you in. 10-2 may not get you in the Big 12 or ACC because of schedule strength. Maybe not. But 10-2 in the SEC or the Big 10, you're in. It's also very difficult, I think, to finish 10-2 with Alabama's schedule or with any reasonable schedule in the SEC or the Big 10.
Well, good. Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult to finish 10-2. I got us going 11-1.
Really?
I think it's going to be hard to find out that loss. I'm teasing.
I hope
not that arrogant.
Hope you're right.
Jimmy, that's going to do it for today's podcast. Want to make sure that everybody goes and checks out Locked On College Football. Look, give them your second listen a day. Thank you for making Locked On Bama your first listen. But go check out my main man over there at Locked On College Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. And Jimmy, until next time, roll tide.
Roll Tide.